stage. In addition, I would like to request Ms. Avantika Bhadwaj, Senior Director, Culture and People, Experience and Sono, Mr. Sandeep Girotra, Executive Director and CHRO, DCM Shriram, Mr. Unmesh Pawar, Chief People Officer, South Asia, Dentsu International, Mr. Manoj Shikharkane, CHRO, LTI Mindtree, and Ms. Roshni Wadhwa, HR Transformation Director, South Asia, Pacific and MENA, L'Oreal, to please join us on stage. As promised, one of our strongest and best panel on a very critical topic. I hope you find it really enriching. Thank you, and over to you, Rajesh.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks, Malika. Nice, gracious words. I know 2:30 session starting at 3, post-lunch, graveyard session, it's not going to be easy, yeah? But we have six of us. 5 of them definitely intellectually acclaimed, plenty of experience, and they're going to do a lot of insights and share a lot of wisdom as well. But I think there are 3 disclaimers. Disclaimer number 1, I think that's coming from the panel, it's not just from me alone. Disclaimer number 1, we do not know it all. Yeah, so definitely don't want to sound it like a preachy session that we know it all, we have done it all. No, so that's disclaimer number 1. Disclaimer number 2 is it's not that we are going to give everything out from here. I think there's going to be some learning from the audience as well. So going to split this entire session into 3 parts. I'll talk a little bit about it, and we're going to toss it back to you at the end of every thematic discussion so that we keep it a little more interactive. So I'm sure we'll carry some learnings from you as well. And the third one is, we said that, normally, typically what happens in, a large panel discussion is this, all of us come and talk stuff about our companies and our PowerPoints and a lot of appraisal decks that we carry, and we say that, we want to get it out. So there's not going to be too much of inside out. So we're saying there's no headline view that's going to come from any one of us to start with, yeah? Otherwise, that itself consumes half the session gone. So we're going to jump straight into the discussion. So that's disclaimer number 3. And yes, we will be mindful that we do not overlap and we keep some of the points as distinct as we can. We'll try to do that. But that's what is the intent, yeah? So bear with us. We know we're starting a little late. We will try and cover ground, and we will try and make it as impactful, as relevant, and as curious as it can be made. Okay, now jumping straight into the topic, reskilling. Yeah, I think starting with saying we heard a lot of things since morning. I think God created us, and we created work. And all of us, in this world of AI, do not know it all. I think there's parallel debates going on 70 hours work week and all. So I think lots of stuff happening, but, we are all in a state of suspended animation for sure, yeah? And that's the vulnerability that we will be carrying in this panel as well. So that's number 1. Number 2 is, some data points. I think, picked up a lot of data points just to anchor the discussion. So number 1 is new automation tech will eliminate 14% of the jobs in the next few years. So it's effectively, the data suggests by 2028. And seriously disrupt 32% of the jobs in the next, again, 3 to 4 years, number 1. Average shelf life of a job has come down to 2.5 years. Data point number 2. BCG says, I think this is interesting, yeah, and for somebody who's like a little data-driven like Unmesh, 1.5% of the revenue of reasonably established, mid-sized, large-sized corporates should be kept for skilling and reskilling. That's a broad guidance that BCG is given in one of the guidance notes. The World Economic Forum tells us that 1.4 million jobs will be disrupted by 2027. And Goldman Sachs goes to the extent of saying, I think it's trending all over, that 300 million jobs are going to be replaced across the globe. So I think with this as the backdrop and keeping the entire anchoring around reskilling is where we are going to jump into our discussions. Just to leave you with a little bit of coverage. We'll try and cover right from leadership till, I know this is a large CII forum, so we'll try and touch upon some of the industry relevance and possibly some blue collar stuff as well. And that's the endeavor and that's the expectation. I was just going through some of the new leadership, new capabilities that, which is trending. I try to put it through together through my own research. I think some of the stuff that's coming through very, very, standing out real tall. One is emotional intelligence in the world of AI and bringing the entire stuff of new age capabilities. Second is the world of analytics. We spoke a lot about decision making right from the keynote speaker to where we are today. Digital and AI, and I have some specific views on that. And I believe, and I'll address it through some of the questions to the panel members, and I'm talking about hard skilling of digital and AI capabilities right up to the leadership level. Is it needed, not needed? Let's hear the panel on that. And we heard Shivs tell us in the morning, I mean, change is not a process, it's a skill. So I'm so glad to hear that. It's transformation management as a capability. We also having a new competency which is crept in very nicely, and particularly in the age of AI, which is failure handling. Yeah, so it's keep coming in as a very strong capability. One needs to know how to keep on, facing failures and really, re-emerging stronger than where we are. And the last one is co-living with machines and green life. Yeah, so call it the world of sustainability. I think this is something which I want to just anchor on. So let me jump into the discussion straight away. I'm coming there, but before that, I think thematically we are splitting it into three parts. Track number one will be strategy, structure, and staffing. So reskilling on those elements. Track two will be on business aspects and leadership. And track three will be more around architecture, processes, tools, frameworks, and future handling. Yeah. So let me jump into this. So welcome panel. I know it's a very distinguished panel. Thanks for making time and being here. So the first question, and as I said, it's open. So I would encourage that, maybe just one or two of you jump in, but maybe let me target this towards one. And if somebody has a build, maybe, you can add on, but keep it a little brief. Yeah. So let me start by asking, Unmesh, to you first. Yeah. Is reskilling a strategic agenda? And where does it reside in an organization or in the enterprise? And how is it executed? I would want to hear everyone else, but I would want you to start with, is reskilling a strategic agenda? Is it a people agenda? Is it an operational agenda? What is it all about and where does it reside? So can you kick off?
Thank you for that, Rajesh. I think if you look at any CEO reports today, right, amongst everything that is talked about from an economic headwind standpoint, talent is one of figures in the top 2 or 3 from an agenda standpoint as a priority for every CEO possibly. And I think by virtue of that, when I look at from a talent agenda standpoint, the whole piece around skilling is an important element. Now, therefore, is it necessarily translating into actions across the organization to back that up? I think the honest answer is no. And I'd say that because, and I think there are two types of organizations, right? Organizations that believe they can figure it out and then will wait for the right time and do things, vis-a-vis organizations that are talent-intensive organizations and for whom, therefore, the cost of talent becomes a prerequisite to focus on. And I think organizations like the IT services companies, the ITES companies, have potentially been at the forefront of some of this by trying to identify what the future of skill sets are and trying to migrate skills from one point to another. Because even a 6-month lead up, if you have compared to competition on a particular skill set, you have an opportunity in the marketplace of some element of monopoly to make money in the marketplace. So I think that's the broad answer. I think skilling is important, reskilling agenda is important. It's talked about at board meetings, at leadership meetings. The focus is out there, but it hasn't translated as much as one would want to be. It's still at the CHRO's plate, and I think the CHRO in most organizations beyond IT, ITS are trying to sensitize the leaders and trying to work through the training and learning journeys to be able to navigate that. Some organizations have done this successfully, building awareness with respect to the digital disruption, the tech hype cycles that are coming in, implications of that for business, at least level 1 training across the organization to at least sensitize their core leadership teams with respect to what's out there has happened. And therefore now the stage is, therefore now what is where we are mostly across is my take. Back to you, Rajesh.
Thanks, Unmesh. So what I hear you, if I were to sum up, you're saying that it is strategic agenda, but strategy to execution, there are gaps. I think that leaves the entire panel to talk about how do we execute it in that case. I mean, first is, do you agree? Do you don't agree? And if you do agree, how are we going to execute it? Because a lot of what is getting covered, but how do we really make this happen? We realize from what Unmesh said that there is a gap. There's got to be a speed at which it's got to be done. But we are also shooting in the dark. There's plenty of stuff that's evolving on a daily basis. Not that, and I started by saying we do not know it all. So can I ask, Manoj, maybe you want to kick off?
Thanks, Rajesh. Yeah, so I agree with Umesh. I mean, it is a strategic agenda, and I will share my experience in LTI Mindtree on this entire initiative in terms of how we actually executed it. So, almost 2.5, 3 years back, when we made the entire reskilling as part of one of the strategic programs, we thought that let's first make everybody aware about the importance of reskilling. And we started with a typical approach of, sending mailers and, talking about it in the town halls or, keeping some posters in the cafeteria. But then very soon we realized that it is not of much use, because there are certain people, maybe let's say 15, 20% of the people who are anyway self-motivated. They know the importance of reskilling and they are there on their own charter. But the rest of the larger organization, 80-85% of the organization, that is where we realize that, just by sending mailers, it's not going to work out. And reskilling is so critical in our business, our IT services business, where we deal with so many variety of clients who keep on, using new technologies to solve the business problems, and we support them. So, so that's where, we thought that we'll do it differently, and we created a skill taxonomy there. We identified about 25 skill clusters, and we tagged each and every employee, it's almost 85,000 people, to one of these skill clusters. And, that information became open, available to each and every person in the organization, not a part of PII, if I may say so. And so that started building a lot of awareness. Everybody started relating themselves to a particular skill cluster. We started, in fact, reflecting the name of the skill cluster in the title of the person. Okay? So that helped us to create the awareness. Our second part of the journey was how do we really enable our people to charter on this reskilling exercise. And that's where we launched our Shoshin School of Learning. And underneath, we got the content from variety of service providers. Broadly, 3 types of content. One is a common content across different skills. Second is the org-specific content. And third is the project-specific, customer-specific content. So, so that helped in the journey. The third phase in the journey was, what we soon realized is that while we solved one problem in terms of making the content available, we suddenly, discovered that we are into another problem, and which is the problem of plenty. Because there was so much content available, and we realized that our people are finding it difficult to comprehend and to decide how do I plan my reskilling journey. Okay, which content I should use in what way on the top of the base skills that I have. So that's where we used some technology. We started using AI, and we started creating some learning pathways. And it's a journey in itself. We are still in that journey. Our next phase in this exercise is to link this entire reskilling exercise to the career progression, appraisal, performance management. So that's how we are dealing with it, Rajesh and the team.
Awesome. I think lovely to hear that in a very structured kind of an environment in IT services, which is like fairly, put in place. I think the pathways and all that you explained, which is good to hear. Roshni, I know you're wanting to go, but I need to jump to Sandeep just to connect a particular point. Sandeep, in the real world, in a very diversified industry group as yours, how does this translate strategy to execution? and try and touch upon right up to the blue collar and the workman as well. Because finally, I think what Unmesh said, I think, unless it goes to the last mile, how does it really translate? And AI, does it really touch upon right up to the last mile of workmen? Is there something that's got to be done as an operational DNA? So how do you play it out? We heard the services part of it, but from a manufacturing and from a real world, do you have anything to share with us?
So first of all, my apologies, Roshni. I think this is not an agenda to have males speaking first and females coming back. So,
I'm happy about it.
all right. All right. So look, I think first of all, we got to start looking at it as a social issue, social agenda. And the reason why I say that, Rajesh, is, uh, are you not able to hear?
Yeah, you need to speak up a little.
Okay.
Speak up a little.
Is it better now? Yeah, all right. So look, I'm also taking this conversation or discussion away from being only a strategic HR agenda. It's a social agenda, and especially for a company like ours, which has presence in rural India and all that, it's making a lot of sense. And I'll explain that to you how. Look, at one point in time, we said that India has a very large population, and that's our strength, 1.4 billion and counting. Then we said, look, 1.4 billion, to theek hai, but how many of them are, young population? So let's talk about that. We say, look, 35% or what, 65% of our population is below 35. So we felt happy about it, and that is also counting, which is good. Now, what do? We still have unemployment, a lot of unemployment. So some intelligent guy came up with this next thing that, look, let's talk about the employable population, So out of that, how many are employable? So we got to train them and all that stuff. So, that's another agenda that started. Unfortunately, with technology and with the life changing so much and the entire ecosystem changing so much, and the fact that cost of education and training becoming increasingly more and more costly, like healthcare, you train somebody or somebody individually. First of all, the government in India does not support too much of education, free education, so people have to pay, for good education, you got to pay it yourself. Once you've done that, suddenly you realize that whatever that you learned in the last 4 or 5 years has become redundant. So what do? Now you start talking about reskilling. So if you don't do it, if the organizations don't take it on to themselves, and the government should not take it on to themselves, we would have a large population sitting here who would have spent a lot of amount, a large sum of money to get trained, to get educated, to be employable about 3 or 4 years ago, but now they are not employable, and look at the frustration that would set in. So that is what is happening now. If you go back to now connecting the dots to the rural India, wherein you told them, 5-7 years ago, we'll open up ITIs. We have ITIs open up, people go there training, we sponsor ITIs, they go get trained, and then we hire them in our factories, sugar factories. But suddenly, our sugar factories have got automated. They got trained in mechanical, they got trained in electrical. But now we are talking about a very different angle. So it is becoming such a big issue at the grassroots level. Because at certain levels and above, you still have the money, and the corporates, the enterprises are ready to invest in you. But at the junior levels, at the grassroots, at the blue collar level that you're talking about, they'll have to pay it for themselves, because we believe the corporations, why would they invest? Because they have enough people to pick up from. So it would become a social agenda unless we kill it. And all the organizations, especially in the rural, have started taking it on as a CSR project and other initiatives to make it happen.
Thank you, Sandeep. I think, yes, a lot that's got to be done at the grassroots level, particularly skilling, fungibility, and stuff as that. I'm sure the government is also supporting with a lot of schemes today, and one needs to relate with those aspects as well, so that you get the entire strategy to execution piece in the industry well. So over to you, Roshni. I think so. Unmesh started by saying it resides in the hands of the HR system. So how would we do it?
Thank you, Rajesh. For me, I think when I look at the reskilling and capability building, I see this is a topic of a crisis today. And I think while we are spending a lot of time in terms of doing the reskilling and how do we need to upskill, cross-skill, and so on, the backbone of this whole issue really lies in terms of really understanding the unprecedented changes that are happening in the business. And the disruption that is happening at the pace is also really beyond anticipation. And I think that's where the whole dynamism is coming in terms of being able to anticipate what's happening in your business and in your situation, and then being able to anticipate what kind of skill and capabilities are we looking at, which really is leading to a huge demand-supply gap. And as an HR leader, I think, and I've also been party to that, sometimes we start sitting in the boardroom and discussing about, oh, we have a supply gap, we need to raise salaries, we need to increase compensation, let's review the strategy of benefits and so on. And there is a very little focus that we are really putting in terms of really upskilling and reskilling our own people inside the organization who can really take these big business challenges which are absolutely changing. So, and the last part really I would say is that, yes, it's true. I think the HRDs and the CHROs have taken too much on their plate to say that this really belongs to the HR topic. And that's something that we really need to do, something to really build this as a learning culture in the organization. I think it should not be just left to the L&D function to curate some programs and just call for the classroom sessions and think that the capabilities will be built. There is really breakthrough disruption that we really need to bring in terms of doing the capability building, and we should discuss as we go along with our panel.
Thank you, Roshni. So what I hear is a very clear, structured approach, and there is some urgency, and then there is a need for acceleration as well. So clearly with that, I think, Avantika, your take in terms of, how do we really make this happen from an execution level, your insights.
Can you all hear me? Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I think I would give a little bit of make better happen at Ensono, that is what my company. So we are into mainframe business. I think if you're from banking, financial services, you're from airlines, you need mainframe, and if you need mainframe, you need Ensono, and that's where we were, and mainframe was not available in the market. Add to that, the problem was that now customer was wanting to move up to cloud, right? Add to that, today, when we go to the customer and say, you know what, we are on cloud, and mainframe has, mainframe modernization, mainframe on cloud. They say, what's in AI, right? So the customer's demands are not ending, and we are really in a thing where, first of all, mainframe itself was not available in market, and then add to it, the newer skills in terms of on cloud and, now AI. So for us, it's a very, very important thing that we train, like the pipeline has to be ready all the time. So we started our own mainframe academy, but I'm not going to touch upon that. What I'm going to touch upon is Ensono Career 2.0 program, which is specifically for women on break who were sitting at home and were not sure whether they can upskill, reskill, cross-skill themselves and can start their career once again. So that's where we really got into the game, which nobody was doing, and we said, we'll find out women, right, who have taken career breaks for whatever reason they had in their, life journey, and we got them on board. We trained them through MFA on various skills, including mainframe, and now, the entire cloud and the AI streams, which are the new verticals introduced in Ensono, are being funded by the internal population that we have, our own employees, right? Being rescaled and upskilled, because some of us, some of the junior guys, some of the women on break could fill in those roles quickly and then make the other people free for upskilling and reskilling, and we got them. So in short, for us, it's very, very strategic, very, very important agenda item. We're really seriously building on and being funded directly from CEO's office. So that's what I would like to share.
Awesome, awesome. So let me end track one. I think Unmesh started by saying, right, it's a strategic function. The ownership lies at the HR organization in terms of delivering. What we heard, Manoj talk specifically about pathways, having a very structured kind of an approach, clear frameworks in place. So there's a complete clear track as far as approach is concerned in the services. Sandeep touched upon in the real industry as well, right from going up to the last mile of workmen. So AI not just touching at the leadership level or just at the senior level or at the belly level, but right going up to the workman level, and in terms of their own vulnerability, fungibility, reskilling. I think that was the third dimension that we touched. Roshni brought in the strategic part of it in terms of urgency and the speed of execution with a very
clear kind of an approach and with a clear eye on the future. And Avantika did actually add more depth into the topic in terms of how it has got to be done and alluded to the point that it is strategic and this is how we will go through in the services industry. I think that sums up track one. I'm sure, there can be more that can be built, but I think at this stage I want to pass it on to the audience. So maybe we just take one or two, but keep it related to the topic that we have spoken till now, because the other parts are coming. If there's anything that any one of you want to contribute or ask at this stage on this particular track, please feel free. Wow, people are used to asking questions at the end. Huh? There's no one.
This is a post-lunch effect.
Is this a post-lunch effect? There's no one, huh? This is like, yeah. Okay, that's great. So we jump into track two. Unmesh, did you have something to add? Because I saw you grabbing
Let's get into track two. I'll try and
Yeah, okay. So we're getting into track two now. Now, track two is all about, the business aspects. Reskilling, we're talking about it. We realize it's a strategic agenda. So let's get the business dimension around this. Yeah, I did ask the keynote speaker in the morning a question around build versus buy. So speaking specifically on reskilling, how much of reskilling do you really want to build? How much do you want to borrow from the marketplace? Because at no stage you're going to be completely ready. And I heard Manoj saying about skill taxonomies and how complicated that entire engine is all about. So I'm sure all of the easy answer is it's a hybrid approach. Yeah, so we do both. But let's hear it from them. I know it's a difficult question. How do you ready yourself in a very volatile and a disruptive market, which is constantly getting disrupted by AI, in terms of how